The global economy runs on two parallel currencies. The first is money, the physical or digital medium of exchange. The second, far more fundamental currency, is value, the psychological and operational utility one entity provides to another. A persistent structural misunderstanding dominates modern labor markets. Most participants assume money and value move together. They do not. Money is a lagging, distorted reflection of perceived value. It arrives late, recalibrates imperfectly, and reacts to psychological market dynamics rather than raw physical labor. If you spend your life tracking your bank account as your primary performance metric, you are watching a delayed scoreboard. To alter that scoreboard predictably, you must master the primary engine behind it, which is the engineering of scarcity, leverage, and strategic irreplaceability. In 16th century Florence, Niccolò Machiavelli isolated a fundamental law of political survival. A sovereign's authority does not derive from noble intent or sheer volume of activity. It rests entirely upon dependence. A ruler providing services easily supplied by a rival holds a precarious title. Their reign is temporary, contingent upon the moment their subjects realize how trivial it is to replace them. Translate this from Renaissance statecraft to modern enterprise. The market does not reward labor. It rewards asymmetric dependency. The market evaluates human capital through one brutal metric, which is the cost of replacement. If you apply 80 hours weekly to a task learnable in 14 days, your economic value approaches the lowest bidder. If you apply 2 hours to a crisis requiring a decade of specialized failure data to diagnose, your value scales to the total magnitude of the loss you prevented. The foundational error of the struggling professional is optimizing the wrong economic variable. They work longer shifts, respond faster, and exhaust cognitive bandwidth on routine execution, then express frustration when these adjustments yield marginal compensation increases. Effort is a linear commodity. You are constrained by 24 hours in a day and the biological limits of human endurance. Leverage, however, is nonlinear. To decouple income from physical time, you must build assets that amplify judgment over raw activity. 4 primary leverage modalities exist today. Capital deploys monetary resources into yield-bearing assets. Labor directs human effort through enterprise structures at scale. Code and systems execute through automated infrastructure without marginal costs. Media and intellectual property deliver value to millions simultaneously. The prince relying solely on paid-by-the-hour mercenaries was always vulnerable. The prince who built fortress infrastructure and institutional laws maintained stability through systemic momentum. The moment a party over-explains a financial requirement, they broadcast an acute internal calculation. They are amazed the counterparty might actually pay it. They launch into line-item breakdowns, itemized expenses, and preemptive defenses before the counterparty has expressed a single objection. Every line item offered as justification becomes an invitation for the counterparty to challenge that specific variable. Machiavelli explicitly warned against sovereigns who felt compelled to continually justify their decrees with subordinates. In commercial negotiations, justification operates as a direct invitation to counteroffer. When you present a price unadorned, you present a consolidated market reality. When you itemize and over-explain, you present a fragile budget proposal open for revision. Executing price authority requires one behavioral discipline: state your number, then terminate speech immediately. The silence that follows is a high-pressure psychological arena. The party that breaks silence first usually cedes ground. Financial stratification is rarely caused by variance in raw intelligence. The primary separator across economic classes is the operational time horizon applied to daily choices. Short time horizon decision-making evaluates every transaction against an immediate outcome. Compounding-focused decision-making evaluates actions through a non-linear lens, asking what system or strategic positioning this builds over a 5 to 10-year cycle. Consider two individuals entering the market with identical baseline incomes. Individual A reallocates every cash flow increase toward visible status markers, newer vehicles, premium wear, and high-end housing. These expenditures offer immediate psychological validation, but zero future yield. Individual B maintains a low baseline cost of living and reallocates surplus capital into equity stakes, specialized technical skill sets, and proprietary software infrastructure. For years, individual A appears wealthier externally. However, compounding operates in complete silence during its initial phases. When the inflection point hits, the gap between them becomes mathematically unbridgeable. A common career miscalculation is pursuing hyper-accessibility, offering broad, generalized skills to everyone. While this feels safer because it keeps multiple options open, it guarantees commodity pricing. When you render yourself useful to everyone for general tasks, you compete directly with the entire global market pool of general providers. Market pricing instantly defaults to the lowest marginal cost provider capable of achieving basic completion. Machiavelli advised princes never to entangle themselves in widespread alliances, where they were merely one of dozens of minor contributors. The strategic sovereign forms specialized, critical relationships, where their contribution is non-substitutable. To escape commodity pricing, move from general accessibility to specialized indispensability. As you narrow your focus, the total number of potential clients shrinks. The criticality of your solution to that specific target group approaches 100%. The availability of alternative providers approaches 0. You stop accepting the market standard rate and begin capturing a percentage of the total value your intervention creates. In any high-stakes transaction, the balance of power is held by the party with the most viable alternatives. When an entity needs a specific deal to materialize, that vulnerability permeates every interaction through subtle timing, delays, overly accommodating concessions, and micro-behaviors that signal panic under pressure. Machiavelli warned that a prince who relies on the goodwill of others for security deceives himself. Goodwill is an unstable financial asset. It fluctuates with market mood and macroeconomic shifts. The only secure position in economic negotiations is a portfolio of credible alternative options. In modern negotiation theory, this is formalized as the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Your leverage in any room is directly equal to the quality of your options outside that room. If you have 0 options, your effective negotiating range is bounded by whatever the counterparty feels like offering. Genuine willingness to walk away produces low stress, clear judgment, and terms dictated on your terms. Every unit of resource allocated towards signaling success to external observers is a unit withdrawn from the engine of compounding growth. Machiavelli analyzed the strategic ruin of rulers who maintained reputations for lavish generosity and visible splendor. They burdened their subjects with extraordinary taxes and went bankrupt maintaining the facade of power, leaving them defenseless when challenged. Rulers who spent quietly and maintained deep reserves were always prepared when real crises materialized. Modern social media has elevated the performance of wealth into an operational industry, creating a psychological trap for market participants who confuse consumption with capital. The stealth asset owner operates differently. They reinvest earnings into non-visible infrastructure, proprietary software, private equity, and deep skill acquisition. They keep fixed personal lifestyle costs detached from gross revenue growth. They view capital as ammunition for strategic positioning, not fuel for public display. Power is never about what you possess. It is about what others believe they cannot afford to lose access to.